everybody. This is Unit 5, Human Physiology. So this is the intro of the chapter, and it will be beneficial if you read it. So let us go line by line, and I will read it and then probably explain to it wherever it is required. Okay, so the reductionist approach to study life form resulted in increasing use of physiochemical concepts and technique. The majority of the studies employed either surviving tissue model or straightaway cell-free systems. An explosion of knowledge resulted in molecular biology. Molecular physiology became almost synonym with biochemistry and biophysics. However, it is now being increasingly realized that neither a purely organismic approach nor a purely reductionistic molecular approach would reveal the truth about biological processes or living phenomena. Systems biology make us believe that all living phenomena are emergent properties due to interaction among the components of the system under study. Regulatory networks of molecules, supramolecule assemblies, cells, tissues, organisms, and indeed populations and communities. Each create emergent properties. In the chapter under this unit, major human physiology processes like digestion, exchange of gases, blood circulation, locomotion, and movement are described in cellular or molecular terms. The last two chapters point to the coordination and regulation of the body events at the organismic level. So this is overall intro of this unit, and you might probably came to know by now that it's based on human physiology, means the physiological processes that are occurring in a human. Okay, so this is the small intro of this particular scientist, and I will suggest you to read that also, as this is in the NCERT, and we all know that the main portion of NEET where the questions are put is NCERT, and this is also a part of NCERT, so I would suggest you all to read it also. Okay, so coming to the chapter, this is chapter 16, Digestion and Absorption, and very first chapter of human physiology might be known of the systems called as digestion and absorption, but this chapter deals with some more detail with the topic. Okay, so the format will be same. I will read it and explain it wherever it will be required. Okay, so food is one of the basic requirements of all living organisms. The major component of our food are carbohydrates, protein, and fats. Okay, so the major component are carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Okay, so then vitamin and minerals are also required in small quantities. Yes, we do need to remember this, that vitamin and minerals are required, but they are required in small quantities. Food provides energy and organic material for growth and repair of tissue. The water we take in plays an important role in metabolic processes and also prevents dehydration of the body. Biomacromolecules in food cannot be utilized by our body in their original form. They have to be broken down and converted into simple substances in the digestive system. So this is the word that actually introduces our topic, that is digestion and absorption. So what is digestive system? It actually breaks down the complex food into the simple substances which our body can easily absorb. Okay, so absorption will come on later in the video. So this process of conversion of complex food substances to simple absorbable form is called digestion. Yes, so this is the definition of our process, digestion, and is carried out by our digestive system by mechanical and biochemical methods. So this is a very important thing that you should note, is it is done by mechanical as well as biochemical. Mechanical means the mechanical things that happen, maybe the churning of stomach, maybe the peristalsis movement of esophagus which occurs, and the biochemical is the enzyme work, maybe the enzyme, maybe the hormones. So that combined work is called as biochemical method. So our digestive system deals with both mechanical as well as biochemical methods. So general organization of human digestive system is shown in figure 16.1. Okay, we'll check the figure later on. The first topic is 16.1, digestive system. The human digestive system consists of alimentary canal and the associated glands. Yes, so what does the digestive system consist of? It is consist of alimentary canal and associated glands. Okay, so first, alimentary canal. What is it? So the alimentary canal begins with an anterior opening called the mouth, and it opens out posteriorly to the anus. The mouth leads to the buccal cavity or oral cavity. The oral cavity has a number of teeth and a muscular tongue. each tooth is embedded in a socket of jawbone. This type of attachment is called thecodont. Okay, so this is the first important thing of our chapter, the major important thing. So thecodont, what is thecodont? It is actually the pattern of the tooth which is attached in the jawbone in a socket like form. So it is embedded in a socket which is actually of the jawbone, and the tooth is embedded in it. So this type of attachment actually is called as thecodont. Majority of mammals including human beings form two set of teeth during their life. A set of temporary milk or deciduous teeth replaced by a set of permanent or adult teeth. Okay, so by the time you are reading this chapter, so maybe you would have got the permanent teeth, and you might know that what are temporary or deciduous teeth that might be replaced in your mouth. Okay, so these are the two type of teeth that occurs in a human during its lifespan. So this type of dentition is called diphyodont. Okay, so what is diphyodont? It is actually referring to the two type of teeth that occurs in human lifespan. Okay, so we get two type of teeth, that is temporary milk or deciduous teeth, and the second one is permanent. Okay, so that persists throughout the life, the permanent one. An adult human has 32 permanent teeth which are of four different types, which is also called as heterodont dentition. An important word to mark. Yes, so heterodont dentition, what does it mean? It is actually in a human, it is maybe malab, it is a characteristic thing which human have, that is heterodont dentition. Means they have different type of teeth. We have molars, canines, incisors, premolars. So there are four type of teeth in humans. Now what are they? Yes, I said it. Incisors, canine, premolars, and molars. Okay, so these are the four names or the type of teeth that occurs in humans. Okay, so arrangement of teeth in each half of the upper and lower jaw in order IC, PM, and M is represented by a dental formula which is in human is 2123. Okay, so this is a formula which actually explains the human dentition and also the adult one. Okay, so in case of adult it is this one, and if you talk about maybe infants or in children, it is 2103 by, I'm sorry, it's little bit large, 2103. Okay, so this is, and which type of teeth are absent in children is the premolars. Okay, so the children do not have premolars, but the adults do have. It is two. Okay, the upper half two, and the one side of upper half there are two, and the lower side there are two. Okay, so then the hard chewing surface of teeth made up of enamel, everybody knows it, helps in mastication of food. The tongue is freely movable muscular organ attached to the floor of oral cavity by frenulum. Okay, this is very important thing. The tongue is a freely movable organ which is attached to the floor of oral cavity, which is called as frenulum. Okay, so this is important, which can be asked in competitive exams. Okay, so the upper surface of tongue has small projections called papillae, some of which bear taste buds. Okay, so this is very important, that only some of the papillae are actually possessing the taste buds. Okay, so this is many times asked, that if all the papillae have taste buds or only some. So it is only some of the papillae have taste buds. Okay, so I am sure that you are clear till now in the chapter. Yes, this is the figure of human digestive system, and it is well labeled, and I would suggest if you just go through it and remember all the markings. Yes, this is the submaxillary and sublingual glands. We will talk on it in the later part of the video. Okay, so this is parotid gland, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, pancreas, jejunum, descending colon, sigmoid colon. Okay, this sigmoid colon, yes, it's also an important thing, that this is added in the new part of NCRT, the new version of NCRT. So In the old version, it is not mentioned about this name, sigmoid colon, but it is added in the new version. Okay, so it can be asked because it is given in NCERT. Okay, so liver, gallbladder, duodenum, transverse colon, ascending colon. So this colon is actually, in the older part it was of 3 parts, but now it has 4 parts, including sigmoid colon. Okay, so ileum, cecum. Cecum is actually the first part of large intestine. Then vermiform appendix, then anus. Okay, this is a figure which can be asked in school exams, but yes, definitely the labelings are important for the competitive ones. Okay, so moving forward. Okay, the oral cavity leads to a short pharynx which serves as a common passage for food and air. Okay, so this is also an important thing that you need to remember, that pharynx is a common passage for both food and air. Okay, so esophagus and the trachea, the windpipe, open into the pharynx. Yes, the esophagus and the trachea both open into pharynx. So it is actually the common passage for food and air. The cartilaginous flap called epiglottis prevents the entry of food into glottis. Okay, the cartilaginous flap which is called as epiglottis. Okay, so where is epiglottis located? It is actually located on the top of glottis. What is glottis? Glottis is actually the windpipe. Okay, so on the opening of the windpipe there is a glottis. So we might have an that mindset that the food pipe is covered with something. Actually not. The glottis is actually covered by epiglottis, which opens and closes when we breathe. It opens, and when we eat something it actually closes, so the food doesn't go into the windpipe. Okay, so this you need to remember, and it's easy. Okay, so during swallowing, yes, okay, so it actually handles the opening of the windpipe during swallowing. The esophagus is a thin, long tube which extends posteriorly, passing through the neck, thorax, and diaphragm. Okay, so esophagus is obviously thin, long tube which extends posteriorly, passing through the neck. Okay, so in neck also it passes posteriorly, and then thorax and diaphragm. Okay, and leads to a J-shaped bag called stomach. Yes, like structure called stomach. Okay, this is important, that what is actually the shape of stomach. It's like a J-shaped bag. Okay, so stomach is a J-shaped bag that you need to remember. I think in the older version it is something different shape, but it is now in the new one it is J-shaped. Okay, so J-shaped like structure called stomach. The muscular sphincter called as gastroesophageal. Okay, so the muscular sphincter or the gastroesophageal sphincter. Okay, whatever you want to call it, you can call it. It's sphincter or sphincter. Okay, so it regulates the opening of the esophagus into the stomach. Okay, so this is the one of the sphincter that we have come across, and we will come across more sphincter in the later part of the video. Regulates the opening of the esophagus into the stomach. The stomach located in the upper left portion of the abdominal cavity. This is actually a thing which is not asked in it, but can be asked, I think so, because it's actually important, because it is locating the place where stomach is located. So upper left portion of the abdominal cavity. So upper left portion. Okay, and it has 4 major parts. The cardiac portion, into which the esophagus opens. Okay, so the esophagus, when it opens to the gastroesophageal sphincter, so it opens into cardiac portion, into which the esophagus opens. Okay, so fundic region. Fundic region is actually, say this over here. It is the figure of stomach, and you can see it, that this fundus, it is actually the fundic region which is above, and the cardiac region where the esophagus is entering. Yes, so this is, and then comes the body, the main central region, and the pyloric portion which opens into first part of small intestine. Okay, so first part of small intestine, it actually pyloric thing. This part of stomach is actually, it leads next to the duodenum, which is the part of small intestine. Okay, so this is the overall structural explanation of the stomach. So, okay, mainly four parts: the cardiac, body, and pyloric. Okay, so then this is of stomach, and the small intestine is distinguishable into three regions: a C-shaped duodenum, a long coiled middle portion called jejunum, and a highly coiled ileum. Okay, so these are the three parts of what? Small intestine. Okay, so we can have a look on the figure which is labeled by the name. Okay, so here it is duodenum, the first part of small intestine. Okay, so this is duodenum. Then comes the jejunum. This is jejunum, and later is the ileum. Okay, so now, so there comes an interesting thing that you can see that small intestine, actually where we are saying it's small, but you can see it is very very large, okay, compared to the large intestine. Okay, so when I was studying this chapter, first I was having a question that why, uh, even though it is large small intestine, but why it is referred to as small intestine. Okay, so and large, and vice versa with the large intestine. So I came to know that it is on the diameter or the radius of the intestine which by which they are named. So small intestine is actually small in radius than the large intestine, and large intestine is broader by radius, so it is referred as it. Okay, so this is interesting thing, you might be know it, but then also you need to remember it. Okay, so then along coiled middle jejunum, and the opening of stomach into the duodenum is guarded by the pyloric sphincter. This is the second sphincter we are come across. So this is pyloric sphincter. Okay, so pyloric sphincter is actually what the thing that guides from pyloric portion of the stomach to duodenum, which is the portion of the small intestine. Okay, so ileum opens into the large intestine. Okay, so this comes at the end of small intestine when the ileum opens into the large intestine. It consists of, now it means the large intestine. Large intestine consists of cecum, colon, and rectum. Okay, so cecum is small blind sac which hosts some symbiotic microorganisms. So this is very important, and yes, it is asked in many of the competitive exams, and definitely it is important. A narrow finger-like tubular projection, the vermiform appendix, is a vestigial organ. Yes, in humans it is vestigial. What does it actually perform? It is actually responsible for the digestion of the cellulose, which is actually now vestigial in humans because we do not eat uh, maybe that grass and all those plant stuff which is actually cellulosic. So uh, now it is not functional in our body, and we cannot thus probably digest cellulose. Yes, so this was vermiform appendix, and where it is located, it is actually located or arises from cecum. Okay, so this is also important, that where it is actually arising from, so from cecum. The cecum opens into colon. The colon is divided into four parts: an ascending, transverse, descending, and a sigmoid colon. Okay, so these four parts are actually included in the newer version of NCERT. Yes, so you need to refer it. And we at first saw that very sigmoid. So this is the four parts of colon. Yes, so colon, there is this one ascending. Yes, the ascending part, the transverse part, the descending colon, descending part, and the sigmoid part. Yes, so these are the four parts of what? Colon. Okay, so these are the four parts. Yes, so yes, then moving further, the descending part opens into rectum, which opens out through anus. Okay, this was actually the whole, the digestive tract that was little bit explained, and yes, well labeled. So talking about the wall of alimentary canal. Yes, so the wall of alimentary canal from esophagus to rectum possesses four layers, namely serosa, the outermost, muscularis, submucosa, and the mucosa. Yes, mucosa is the innermost layer of the alimentary canal. Yes, so serosa, first of all, it is the outermost layer. Yes, and it is made up of thin mesothelium. So this is important, that what is the component that it is made up of. So it is made up of thin mesothelium. And what is mesothelium? It is the epithelium of visceral muscles. Yes, okay, so mesothelium is nothing but actually the epithelium of visceral organs with some connective tissues. Yes, there are some connective tissues also present. So then muscularis. Muscularis is formed by smooth muscles, usually arranged into an inner circular and outer longitudinal layer. An oblique muscle layer may be present in some regions. Yes, so this thing, muscularis, is actually divided into two layers, which is on the inner side it is circular and on the outer side it is longitudinal. Okay, so it is actually divided into two more layers, or maybe three, because here it is written that an oblique muscle layer is also present in some regions. It is actually between this inner and outer, and I will confirm this in the later part of the video. Okay, so the two layers of muscularis is inner circular and outer longitudinal. Okay, so you need to remember the pattern of these layers and the location, where is it, inner or outer. Okay, so then an oblique muscle layer is also present, which is also an important point to mark. Okay, so then moving further, the submucosal layer is formed by loose connective tissues containing nerves, bloods, and lymph vessels. Okay, so the submucosal layer of the alimentary canal is actually formed by loose connective tissues. Okay, so connective tissues you might have learned in the earlier chapters of structural organization. There it is briefly described. Okay, so it is made of loose connective tissues containing nerves. This is an important thing, that submucosa contains nerves, blood and uh, lymph vessels. Okay, so oh yes, it consists of blood, lymph vessels, blood and nerves. Okay, so we need to do the next. In duodenum, glands are also present in submucosa. Okay, so in the duodenum is a part of small intestine. The first most part of small intestine is duodenum. Yes, you can see this, that after the stomach, duodenum is started. Okay, so in duodenum the glands are also present in submucosa. Okay, so including nerves, blood and lymph vessels, some glands are also present in submucosa. The innermost lining the lumen of the alimentary canal is mucosa. Okay, so this is also an important thing, that mucosa is the innermost layer. Yes, it is actually lining the lumen. Lumen is the centermost region and it is lined by mucosa, the innermost layer of the alimentary canal. This layer forms irregular folds called rugae in stomach and small finger like foldings called villi in small intestine. Yes, villus is the singular form of villi. Okay, so this is very important thing to mark, that uh, the irregular folds are actually rugae when they are in stomach, and small finger like foldings in villi. Okay, so in stomach, when you will notice in the higher classes that what is the lining of stomach looks like, so then you will understand that rugae is something like, it is less less folded, but in villi if you see, it is very tiny and small finger like structures which are present all around the lining. Okay, so this lining is actually present on the mucosa, and it has many functions to perform. Yes, so we will check it out on the later part of the video. The cells lining the villi produce numerous microscopic projections called microvilli. Yes, the linings of the villi actually produce very minute finger-like, very tiny finger-like projections called microvilli, giving a brush border appearances. There is, you can see this. It is even more than this, but it is actually the simplest diagram of this mucosal layer, the lining of this lumen. Okay, so lumen. Then yes, it then villi forms microvilli, and there is a brush border appearance, and actually it has certain reasons, it has certain functions to perform. Yes, the primemost is the absorption. The foldings over here, you can see this, it actually increases the surface area for the absorption from this villi. Okay, so it actually, the prime most function is to increase the surface area for absorption. Okay, so whatever the food is digested over here, it has to be absorbed from this villi. Okay, so not all the food, but most of food is absorbed from here to the blood capillaries. Okay, so yes, moving further, the modifications increase the surface area. Yes, I told you that it is actually primemost function is to perform more absorption, and to do that the surface area is increased very much by this brush border villi. Okay, so villi are supplied with network of capillaries and large lymph vessels called lacteal. Okay, so important thing is the villi are supplied with rich network of capillaries and do with large lymph vessels. Yes, it is called as lacteal. Now what is the function of lacteal? We will talk on it further. Okay, so in the later part, when it comes to absorption, the lacteal performs its primemost function. Yes, so lacteal is actually, by the way, it is useful in fat absorption. Okay, so how we will check it out, but till now you should remember that it is actually for fat absorption. Fat is not directly absorbed into the blood, and in the blood capillaries it is not directly absorbed. Okay, so lacteals help in that. Mucosal epithelium has goblet cells which secrete mucus that helps in lubrication. Okay, so mucosal epithelium has goblet cells. Okay, goblet cells you might also have referred in the same chapter, that is structural organization in animals. Okay, so there are two type of cells. The single ones were goblet cells, and the more complex one, there was also a name, I do not remember at this point, but yes, it was in that chapter. So goblet cells which secrete mucus that help in lubrication. Okay, so this is important, that all over the alimentary canal this mucus secreting cells are present, which actually, the movement of the food or the thing which is going to pass from the lining of mucosa, it actually smoothens it. The process actually smoothens because of the presence of mucosa which is secreted by the goblet cells. Okay, so mucosa also forms gland in stomach which are called as gastric glands. Okay, so there two are glands in mucosa. Okay, so which are called as gastric glands. Okay, so this can be asked, that in which layer of alimentary canal the glands are present. We just now saw that some mucosa also have glands, and mucosa, we just now read it that it do have glands. And crypts, yes, in crypts in between the bases of villi in the intestine, crypts of Limburg. Okay, so it's actually labeled in this diagram that this structure or the base of the villi, the crypts are present. Yes, so the crypts are actually important thing, because it I think a a question based on that is asked in, I think, NIT or maybe AIPMT or any other competitive exam, but yes, it is definitely asked. Most probably in the NEET. I don't remember the year, but yes. All the four layers show modification in different parts of the alimentary canal. Yes. So this is also important that all the four layers, they are not, as we can see over here, that simply this circular boundary and this mucosa as such is present all over the alimentary canal. It is not like that. It is actually modified according to the location and according to the function it has to perform. Yes. So in different parts of the alimentary canal, it is actually the layers are modified differently. That is what the line wants to say. Yes, moving further, digestive glands. Okay, so the digestive glands. Okay, so first of all, just let us just uh, go through this figure. Yes, this is the villi. Actually, this is the zoom portion of this mucosa, and actually it looks like this when you see it. Okay, so this is villi, and here it is crypts. Okay, so this is artery, and the blue one is vein. Okay, so the red is artery. So and then this is lacteal. This long yellowish portion is actually representing lacteals. Okay, so then yes, digestive glands. The digestive glands associated with the alimentary canal include salivary glands, the liver, and the pancreas. So the three most important, yes, glands that are actually associated with the alimentary canal. These are the salivary glands, yes, the liver, and the pancreas. Yes, so the three most important, which is actually given in the NCERT. The saliva is mainly produced by three pair of salivary glands, very important. The first one is parotid. It's actually present near the cheek region. Yes, so the parotids actually, okay, so I will tell you an important thing after this. The parotid, the first one is parotid. Yes, let us just mark it. The first one is parotid near the cheek. The second is submaxillary or submandibular. It is actually present on the lower jaw. Okay, so yeah, its location is actually given as near the lower jaw. Yes? So submaxillary or submandibular, it is present on the lower jaw region, and the sublingual, it is below the tongue. Yes, so the three most important, and one more important thing, that they all are present in pair. Okay, so they all are present in pair. So how many glands do we have? It is actually 6. Yes, 3 pairs and 6 glands. So this is parotid gland. The first one is parotid, the second is submaxillary or submandibular, and the third one is sublingual. Actually, remember, like the location, that on the cheek it is parotid, the lower jaw it is submaxillary, submandibular, or below the tongue it is sublingual. Okay, so you will remember it very fast if you remember it by the location, yes, where it is present. So you will quickly able to relate it. This gland situated just outside the buccal cavity secretes salivary juice into the buccal cavity. Okay, so this is also important thing, that they are present outside the buccal cavity. Okay, so and they secrete salivary juice inside the buccal cavity. Yes, so liver is the largest gland. Yes, we all know that. Okay, so liver is the largest gland of the body, weighing about 1.2 to 1.5 kg. Okay, so the weight also we should remember. Yes, it is not asked, but then also we should remember it. Okay, so all the things are going colorful. Yes, in the adult human, it is situated in the abdominal cavity just below the diaphragm and has two lobes. Yes, so the liver is actually situated in the abdominal cavity just below the diaphragm. Okay, so it has two lobes, and the hepatic lobules are the structure and the functional unit of liver containing hepatic cells arranged in the form of cords. Okay, so this is also important, that it is not asked, but yes, still it is important because it is not given anywhere else, but in the NCERT, that the hepatic cells are arranged in the form of cords. Okay, so this you need to remember. Yes, so hepatic cells, hepatic lobules contain hepatic cells and it are arranged in the form of cords. Okay, each lobule is covered by a thin connective tissue sheath called the Glissen's capsule. Okay, so the liver's lobe are actually covered by Glissen's capsule. Okay, so Glissen's capsule, this is important. I think this is asked in an competitive exam. The bile secreted by the hepatic cells passes through the hepatic duct and it is stored and concentrated in thin muscular sac called the gallbladder. Okay, so this also is an important thing, that the bile is secreted by the hepatic cells present in the liver and passes through the hepatic duct and is stored and concentrated in gallbladder. Yes, so this is actually tells you the function of gallbladder. Okay, the storage and the concentration of the bile juice or the bile. Yes, the duct of gallbladder, it is called as cystic duct. Yes, an important thing. Gallbladder, the duct of gallbladder is actually called as cystic duct. Okay, along with the hepatic duct from the liver. Yes, so from liver it comes hepatic duct and from gallbladder there is cystic duct. Okay, so this also we are marking because with cystic duct and hepatic duct forms the common bile duct. Yes, so this is also important, that both cystic duct and hepatic duct forms the common bile duct. The bile duct and the pancreatic duct opens together into the duodenum. Okay, so duodenum is actually the first part of small intestine. So over here you can see that this one is the cystic duct. Okay, the duct from gallbladder is actually cystic duct, and the duct from liver, it is written over here that it is hepatic duct. Okay, so here hepatic duct and here from gallbladder it is cystic duct. So here it combines and form the common bile duct. Okay, so this is the common bile duct. Then from there it passes on further and it actually combines with the pancreatic duct. Okay, so pancreatic juice is actually carried by the pancreatic duct. Okay, so with this it combines and forms a common hepatopancreatic duct. Yes, very important. Yes, hepatopancreatic duct, which actually enters duodenum. By what thing we will see further. The bile duct and the pancreatic duct open together into the duodenum as the common hepatopancreatic duct, which is guarded by the sphincter called sphincter of Oddi. The third important sphincter we are reading is the sphincter of Oddi, which actually guides the hepatopancreatic duct in the duodenum. Okay, so this is an important point. The pancreas is a compound. Yes, definitely both exocrine and endocrine gland it is. So elongated organ situated between the limbs of a C-shaped duodenum. Yes, so we can clearly see that the duodenum is actually C-shaped. Okay, so with the figure it is clear. Yes, the exocrine portion secretes the alkaline pancreatic juice containing enzymes, and the endocrine portion secretes insulin and glucagon. Okay, so the exocrine portion is actually used in digestive system. Okay, so here we are actually studying the exocrine portion of the pancreas. Okay, so it is helpful because it secretes alkaline pancreatic juices and juice containing enzymes, and the exocrine portion actually endocrine portion is actually the thing that secretes insulin, that secrete hormones that are insulin and glucagon. Okay, so this endocrine portion we will actually study it in the chapter later, chapter of human physiology, which is chemical coordination. So over there we will study this, the endocrine portion of insulin. Okay, sorry, endocrine portion of pancreas. Okay, so the duct system of liver, gallbladder and the pancreas. Yes, this is a very useful and important figure. Yes, so moving on further, our next topic is digestion of food. Okay, so this is the main process where the digestion occurs. Okay, the process of digestion is accomplished by mechanical and chemical process. Okay, so in the first uh, maybe the intro, yes, in intro we read that the process of digestion is accompanied by mechanical and biochemical. Okay, so this is chemical, this is referring to that only, but here it is written chemical process. Okay, so this we learned in the very first intro of the chapter. The buccal cavity performs two major functions: mastication of food and facilitation of swallowing. Okay, so these are the two functions of buccal cavity, and yes, we need to remember it that it is helpful in mastication of food and facilitation of swallowing. Okay, so these are the two functions of buccal cavity. Teeth, the teeth and the tongue is help with the help of saliva masticate and mix up the food thoroughly. Okay, so teeth and tongue also helps in this mastication of food. uh, Mucus in saliva helps in lubricating and adhering the masticated food particles into bolus. Okay, so into a bolus. So this is actually uh, the stuff that is actually mixed with the saliva, which is actually masticated by the teeth, tongue, and yes, teeth and tongue in the buccal cavity. Okay, so the bolus, the food actually is now called as bolus when it is masticated and also uh, containing mucus, okay, or saliva in that. The bolus is then conveyed into pharynx and then into the esophagus by swallowing or deglutition. Deglutition. Okay, so this is an important thing which can be asked in maybe the board exams, because it is actually not asked in any of the competitive exams. Okay, so the bolus further passes down through the esophagus by successive waves of muscular contraction called peristalsis. Yes, this is the word we have heard since our early classes. Okay, so maybe in 8th, 9th. The gastroesophageal sphincter controls the passage of food into the stomach. Okay, so we read that thing earlier. The saliva secreted into the oral cavity contains electrolytes. So okay, so what are the electrolytes that saliva contains? It is okay. It is actually Na plus, K plus, Cl minus, and HCO3 minus. Okay, so okay. So these are the ions that are actually present in saliva, and there are enzymes too. Salivary amylase. Okay, so this is very important enzyme which is actually used in digestion. The very first enzyme that is actually uh, helping in digestion is salivary amylase and lysozyme. Okay, so this is also an enzyme. The chemical process of digestion is initiated by the oral cavity and the hydrolytic action of the carbohydrate splitting enzyme. Okay, so hydrolytic, it is hydrolytic action of carbohydrate splitting enzyme. Okay, so hydrolytic, lytic means something, so to break something, sorry, to break something, and yes, by water it break in the carbohydrates, and thus the enzyme is called as salivary amylase. Okay, so this actually the function of salivary amylase. Yes, about 30% of starch is hydrolyzed here by this enzyme. Optimum pH, it is 6.8. Okay, so for salivary amylase, the optimum pH. Yes, you might have learned this in chapter biomolecules that each enzyme works maximum at certain pHs at certain temperature too, but here it is mentioned about the pH. Okay, though, so the optimum pH for salivary amylase is 6.8. Okay, so 30% of the starch is hydrolyzed by this enzyme. Okay, so 30% of the starch in the buccal cavity is actually hydrolyzed by salivary amylase, the very first enzyme that is taking part in digestion, and it turns the starch into disaccharide, which is called as maltose. Yes, so then the starch is converted to maltose. Okay, so lysozyme, which is also present in saliva, it is an antibacterial agent that prevents infections. Yes, so this is a very good thing that is present in saliva, which actually fights with the bacterial agent whichever enters our mouth. So okay, so this is the function of lysozyme. Then starch, it is actually the in the equation form that with salivary amylase, the starch at optimum pH 6.8, it is converted to maltose. Okay, so the mucus of stomach has gastric glands. Gastric glands have three major type of cells, namely mucus neck cells, which secretes mucus, and peptic cells or chief cells. Uh, Maybe you whatever you want to say it, maybe chief. Yes, chief cells which secrete the proenzyme pepsinogen. Yes, it actually secretes the proenzyme, not the enzyme. It actually secretes proenzyme, which is called as pepsinogen. And parietal or oxyantic cells which secrete HCl and intrinsic factor. Okay, so very important things are given in these three lines. Yes, the first one is mucus neck cells which secretes mucus, peptic or chief cells which secrete proenzyme pepsinogen, parietal or oxyantic cells which secrete HCl as well as intrinsic factor. So this intrinsic factor is essential for absorption of vitamin B12. Yes, so this vitamin B12 is actually absorbed by intrinsic factor. It is actually called as Cassell's intrinsic factor. Okay, so here it is not given that, but it is actually called as Cassell's intrinsic factor, which is actually responsible for the absorption of vitamin B12. The stomach stores the food for 4 to 5 hours. Okay, so the food mixes thoroughly with the acidic gastric juice. Yes, of course, there is HCl of the stomach by the churning movement of its muscular wall and is called chyme. Okay, so in the buccal cavity, when it was present, it was called as bolus. Yes, and now when it actually mixes with the acidic gastric juice, it is now called as chyme. Okay, so the proenzyme pepsinogen on exposure to the hydrochloric acid gets converted into the active enzyme pepsin, the proteolytic enzyme of the stomach. Yes, so when the proenzyme comes in the exposure of the hydrochloric acid, it actually converts into an enzyme which is called as pepsin, the proteolytic enzyme of the stomach. Yes, so proteolytic is this what? Actually protein breaking. Yes, so protein breaking enzyme of the stomach is actually called as proteolytic enzyme, which is actually pepsin. Yes, so pepsin is the enzyme. Okay, so and it is an proteolytic enzyme. Okay, pepsin converts protein into proteoses and peptones. Very important thing. Just so what pepsin does is to convert proteins to proteoses and peptones, which are peptides. Yes, of course. The mucus and the bicarbonates present in the gastric juice plays an important role in lubrication and the protection of the mucosal epithelium from the excoriation by the highly concentrated HCl. Yes, so here you can find it that the HCl provides the acidic pH of 1.8, optimal for pepsins. Yes, so 1.8 is very acidic pH. Yes, and when you talk about that in stomach, it is very harmful when you need to just avoid the lining of stomach from getting the exposure of the HCl, otherwise it will actually burn up. The acid actually burns if the mucus is if it is not present, the stomach linings maybe have burned. Yes, so here mucus and the bicarbonates, they play a very important role uh, to just lubricate and protect the mucosal lining of the stomach. Yes, then moving further, and yes, this pH 1.8 is actually optimal for pepsin. Yes, pepsin is also an enzyme and it also work optimally at an optimum pH, which is 1.8. Yes, so yes, renin is proteolytic enzyme found in gastric juice of infants, which help in digestion of milk proteins. Yes, it is also an important thing. Yes, to mark, it is also asked in one of the competitive exams that renin is a proteolytic enzyme. The second proteolytic enzyme we have studied till now is renin. Okay, so first one was pepsin. The second is renin. It is actually present in the gastric juice of the infants, and it is actually helping the the for the digestion of the milk proteins. Yes, in the infants. Small amount of lipases is also secreted by gastric glands. This is actually a maybe the hidden line which is present in the NCERT, that some amount of lipases is also secreted by the gastric glands. Yes, the gastric glands do have lipases. Okay, so various type of movements are generated by the muscularis layer of small intestine. This movement help in thorough mixing up of the food with various secretions in the intestine and thereby facilitate digestion. Yes, so this is muscularis layer. It is made up of smooth muscles, and yes, definitely they help in to make the movement and to mix up the food easily. This movement, oh yes, the bile, pancreatic juice, and the intestinal juice are are the secretions released into small intestine. Yes, so these three things, the bile, the pancreatic juice, and the intestinal juice. Yes, these three are released into small intestine. The pancreatic juice and the bile juice are released through the hepatopancreatic duct. Yes, we talked about it earlier. So the pancreatic juice contains inactive enzymes. So this is an important thing, that what actually pancreatic juice contains. Okay, the pancreatic juice contains inactive enzymes. Okay, so these are also the proenzymes. Yes, so these are not active and so called as inactive enzymes. So the three, yes, sorry, the five enzymes: trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen, procarboxypeptidases, amylases, lipases, and nucleases. Okay, so the first three are actually proteolytic enzymes. Actually, they work on proteins. The third one, the fourth one, amylases, is actually the disaccharide breaking enzyme. Okay, so it works on disaccharide, which was actually formed by the digestion of starch in, yes, it was digested 30%. Okay, those 30% of the starch was digested over there, and leftover is actually acted by the amylases. Okay, so amylases, lipases. Okay, lipases also present in pancreatic juice, and nucleases. Yes, nucleases, it actually works on the nucleic acids things, components, maybe the DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, or RNA. Over there, the nucleic acids are actually acted by nucleases. Yes, so for them, nucleases is appointed. Trypsinogen is activated by an enzyme, enterokinase. Yes, so this is the first thing. Actually, the initiator is this enzyme. What it is called as trypsinogen is activated by an enzyme. It is called as enterokinase. Yes. So first of all, trypsinogen, which is a inactive enzyme, it is actually activated by enterokinase, and which is secreted by intestinal mucosa. Okay, so this is also important, that from where enterokinase is secreted. It is secreted actually by the intestinal mucosa into and it turns trypsinogen into active trypsin, which in turn activates the other enzymes in the pancreatic juice. So what actually enterokinase does, it actually turns trypsinogen to trypsin, and then trypsinogen actually turns all other inactive enzymes into an active enzyme. Yes. So yes, which in turn activates other enzymes in the pancreatic juice. The bile released into the duodenum. Okay, so the bile released into the duodenum contains bile pigments. The two pigments which are very important, they are bilirubin and biliverdin. Yes, so these two things are important, and these two things are to be marked. Yes, and what other things are present in bile? They are the bile salts. Yes, cholesterol is also present and phospholipids, but no enzymes. So no enzymes are present in bile juice. Okay, so bile helps in emulsification of fat. Okay, so what actually bile helps is, and what is its prime function is to help in emulsification of fat. Okay, so emulsification, what does it mean? Yes, definitely it means breaking down of the fats into very small micelles. Okay, so the breaking of fat is actually facilitated by bile. Okay, so yes, and why we need to break it down into small micelles? Because yes, so there is a line, bile also activates lipases. So this is also important thing, that bile, one more function of it, it is to activate lipases. Yes, so yes, we are talking about why do the fats have to be broken down into small micelles. Yes, we will talk about it later when the absorption part comes, because there the significations of breaking fats into small micelles will come. Okay, so then moving further, the intestinal mucosal epithelium has goblet cells which secrete mucus. Yes, so I said you that all over the alimentary canal, this mucosal epithelium has goblet cells, or yes, goblet cells, and they actually help in lubrication by secreting mucus. The secretions of brush border cells of mucosa along with the secretion of goblet cells constitute the intestinal juice or the succus entericus. Yes, so what is succus entericus? It is intestinal juice. Yes, it is actually the other name of intestinal juice. Yes, so what it is actually consist of? It is actually consist of the secretion of goblet cells and the secretion of the brush border cells of mucosa. Yes, so the secretions of the this cells of brush border cells of mucosa and the secretion of goblet cells, it actually constitutes succus entericus. It is none other thing than intestinal juice. Yes, this juice contains a variety of enzymes like disaccharides. Example, maltase. Yes, so maltase, what does it act upon? It acts on maltose. Yes, it was created by the amylases. Yes, dipeptidases, and yes, the juice, this intestinal juice is contained by disaccharides. Okay, I should use. So what it contains is the enzymes like disaccharidases, dipeptidases, lipases, nucleases, etc. Okay, so the main enzymes are disaccharidases, which definitely suggests us by the name that it acts upon disaccharides. Yes, and this on the dipeptides, and this lipases on lipids. This nucleosidases, it actually acts on nucleosides. Okay, so yes, this is the thing you might have yes again learned in biomolecules, that the nucleosides and the phosphate group. Yes, so this both combines and make a nucleotide, and by which the DNA or the RNA is made up of. So, okay, so this nucleosidase is, it acts on nucleosides. Okay, so the mucus along with the bicarbonates from the pancreas protect the intestinal mucosa from the acid as well as provide an alkaline medium for enzymatic activities. Yes, so pH they take up to is 7.8, and so from 1.8 to we need to reach 7.8. Yes, so it is actually facilitated by the mucus and the bicarbonates, which are actually basic, so they take the pH up for enzymatic activities. Yes, submucosal gland, Brunner's gland also help in this. Okay, so providing an alkaline medium is also helped by the Brunner's gland. Yes, so this is also important that the Brunner's gland also help in providing the alkaline medium in the intestine. Yes, then moving on further, this is actually in a very nice way in an equation form that how the process takes place. Okay, so first of all, the protein and proteoses and peptones, partially hydrolyzed protein. Yes, in the chyme is the name given to the food present in yes, definitely it is present in stomach. Yes, so reaching the then the chyme when it reaches the intestine and acted upon by the proteolytic enzymes of the pancreatic juice as given below. Yes, so this proteins, peptones and proteoses. Okay, so these proteins are present naturally, and this peptones and proteoses, it is actually converted from protein to them peptones and proteoses in stomach. Yes, by pepsin. So these are the three again proteolytic enzymes which actually convert these three things to dipeptides. Yes, so dipeptides are the result from this in the by the pancreatic juice. Yes, so then of carbohydrates, it is actually present in chyme and hydrolyzed by the pancreatic amylase into disaccharides. So this is the pancreatic amylase, and it converts polysaccharide, that is starch, the leftover, the 70% of the starch, it is actually acted by the pancreatic amylase, and it is then converted into disaccharides. So fats are broken down by the lipases with the help of bile into di and monoglycerides. Okay, so fats with the help of lipases are converted into diglycerides and then further to monoglycerides. Okay, so this is with fats. Okay, so nucleases in pancreatic juice, nucleases in the pancreatic juice acts on nucleic acid to form nucleotides and nucleosides. Yes, so first nucleic acids are acted upon by nucleases, then it converts into nucleotides and then further into nucleosides. Yes, so we talked that nucleotides are actually made up of nucleosides plus phosphate groups. Yes, so then the enzymes in the succus centricus act on the end product of the above reaction to form the respective simple absorbable forms. Yes. So what we are going to do in digestion is simply making the things simple which are actually complex for us to absorb. Yes. This final steps in digestion occurs very close to the mucosal epithelium cells of the intestine. Yes, so whatever thing which are acted by the pancreatic juice are actually then acted by the intestinal juice. Okay, so all things happen in the small intestine. Yes, so and most probably in the first two regions, that is duodenum and mainly duodenum, and then secondarily some digestion do occur in jejunum, and then ileum, it is actually mainly focused on absorptive function. Yes, so then in the mucosal epithelium of the intestine, there the dipeptides which were converted by the proteolytic enzymes in the pancreatic juice, they are acted upon by the dipeptidases, and then it is converted into the simplest form of protein, it is amino acids. Okay, so then maltose it is acted by maltase, and then it is converted into glucose plus glucose. Okay, so then there are different type of disaccharides. Yes, so The first one was maltose. The second is lactose. Lactose is acted by lactase, is broken into glucose plus galactose. Yes, you need to remember as well as understand that maltose is constituted by glucose and glucose, and this lactose is made up of glucose plus galactose. Yes, and this sucrose, it is acted by sucrase and it is converted into glucose plus fructose. Okay, so actually the structure of this you will learn later. Okay, so you just need to remember this, that these are actually these are the things which are actually constituted in sucrose. Then nucleotides are actually acted by nucleotidases, then they are converted into nucleosides, and then on nucleosidase is it acts and then it converts it into sugar and bases. Yes, so what is nucleosides? It is actually indeed sugar and the bases. Yes, nitrogenous bases. Then this sugar may be ribose or deoxyribose. Yes, then monoglycerides. Okay, so di and monoglycerides, they are actually converted into the simplest form of lipid, that is fatty acids and glycerol by lipases. Breakdown of macromolecules mentioned above occurs in the duodenum region of the small intestine. Yes, so mainly it is in the duodenum. The simple substances that formed are absorbed in jejunum and ileum regions of the small intestine. Yes, so here it is written then that the small substances are actually then absorbed in jejunum and ileum region of small intestine. Yes, so yes, we will follow it. The undigested and unabsorbed substances are passed on to the large intestine. Yes, so here comes the large intestine. Yes, till now we were talking the things from buccal cavity to esophagus to stomach to small intestine, and then it comes large intestine. Okay, so this thing, no, yes, moving further, no significant digestive activity occurs in large intestine. Yes, very important thing, that actually no important digestive activity takes place in large intestine. The functions of large intestines are very, very absolute. And yes, the first one is absorption of some water, minerals and certain drugs, secretion of mucus, yes, which helps in adhering the waste. Okay, so waste actually the undigested food actually which is not digested by the enzymes. Okay, so particles together and lubricating it for an easy passage. So first it is absorption of some water, minerals and certain drugs. Okay, so these three things, water, minerals and drugs, certain drugs, these are absorbed in large intestine. And also one more function it has, that is secretion of mucus. The undigested unabsorbed substances called feces. Okay, so feces, it is actually the word which is first used in the cecum region. Yes, so this is also an asked question in one of the competitive exam maybe. So this is where the first word feces is used in alimentary canal. So it is actually used in cecum, the first part of large intestine, through ileocecal valve. So the unabsorbed substances actually enter the cecum uh, through ileocecal valve from the small intestine to large intestine through ileocecal valve. So this is important, that it is actually guided by a valve, not a sphincter. Okay, so which prevents the backflow of the fecal matter. Yes, the function of itself. It is temporarily stored in rectum till defecation. Yes, so the fecal matter, it is actually stored in rectum till we defecate it. Yes, so the activities of gastrointestinal tract are under neural and hormonal control for proper coordination of different parts. Yes, so the sight, smell, or the presence of food in oral cavity can stimulate the secretion of saliva. The gastric and intestinal secretions are also similarly stimulated by the neural signals. Yes, so the overall process of secretion of enzymes to the secretion of various things, absorption, digestion of the various things takes place. So here it is explain briefly that gastric and intestinal secretions are also similarly stimulated by the neural signals. The muscular activities of different parts of the alimentary canal can also be moderated by neural mechanisms. So overall, this all are actually what they are, the smooth muscles, yes. So these are visceral muscles. The neural portions are actually controlling this by the various amount of secretions, yes. So by this they actually get control of this whole system, both local and through CNS. Hormonal control of secretion of digestive juices is carried out by local hormones produced by the gastric and intestinal mucosa, yes. So hormonal control is carried out by local hormones, and which are produced by gastric and intestinal mucosa, yes. So these hormones are actually also produced by gastric and intestinal mucosa, yes. So proceeding further, this is a block which is actually of calorific value of protein, carbohydrates and fats, and yes, it is written that it is not for evaluation purpose, but then also we should read it because one of the question is asked from this in one of the competitive exam, I think. So let's just read it. The energy requirements of animals and energy content of food are expressed in terms of measure of heat energy, because heat is the ultimate form of all energies. This is often measured as calorie or joule, which is the amount of heat energy required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius. Since this value is tiny amount of energy, physiologists commonly use kilocalorie or kilojoule. 1 kilocalorie is amount of energy required to raise the temperature of 1 kg of water by 1 degree Celsius. Yes, so just maybe understand it, and I think no need to just cram it. And one thing which will come further, which you need to remember. Okay, so nutritionists traditionally refer to kilocalorie as calorie or joule, always capitalized. Okay, the amount of heat liberated from the complete combustion of 1 gram of food in bomb calorimeter, a closed metal chamber filled with O2, is the gross calorific or gross energy value. So this I think you should remember for the understanding purpose. Yes, so what is the difference between gross energy value and the physiologic value, which will come further? The amount of energy consumption in 1 gram of food is the physiologic value of food. Okay, so what is the difference between the two? Actually, in the gross energy value, the container which is called as bomb calorimeter is used in which the O2 is filled, so complete combustion maybe takes place, and whereas in physiologic value it is the actual energy consumption for the 1 kg of food, yes, to burn up. The gross calorific value of carbohydrates, protein and fats are, okay, so this value you need to remember. Yes, this value is actually asked in one of the competitive exams. Yes, so the gross calorific value of carbohydrates, protein and fats are 4.1 kilocalorie per gram, 5.65 kilocalorie per gram and 9.45 kilocalorie per gram respectively, whereas their physiologic values are 4.0 kilocalorie per gram and for yes proteins 4.0 kilocalorie per gram and 9.0 for fats. Yes, so this you need to remember. I think mostly it is asked in NEET of previous years. Yes, so you need to remember it. Then moving further to our next topic, which is actually absorption, the second part of the chapter, you can say. So the absorption of digested products. Absorption is a process by which the end products of digestion pass through the intestinal mucosa into the blood or lymph. Yes, it is carried out by passive, active or facilitated transport mechanisms. Yes, you might be aware of this mechanisms. The passive one is mostly through diffusion. Active is with the use of ATP, yes, adenosine triphosphate, and mostly ATPs. There are another energy units also you might have learned in previous plant physiology chapters. And facilitated transport. Facilitated it is actually by the usually through proteins. Yes, so these mechanisms are used in absorption of the food that is digested. Small amount of monosaccharides like glucose, amino acids, and some electrolytes like chloride ions are generally absorbed by simple diffusion. Yes, so you need to remember this, that what things are actually absorbed by simple diffusion, or you may say that passive method is used in their absorption. The passage of these substances into the blood depends upon the concentration gradient. Yes, definitely the concentration drives this process. Yes, higher to lower. However, some substances like glucose and amino acids are absorbed with the help of carrier proteins. So actually you will now ask a question that if glucose and amino acids are given in simple diffusion, do they also get absorbed by carrier proteins? It is actually they undergo both type of processes in the process of absorption. Yes, so for need, actually you do not need that whole process. You just need to remember that whenever it is glucose and amino acid, mostly if they ask in competitive, I would say that glucose, it is actually, I think, asked in competitive exams also. By the question perspective, I would say that glucose is actually absorbed by active method. Yes, with the use of energy. Yes, it is a method actually. For now, you should just remember that glucose is actually mainly through active. It does go with simple diffusion and also with facilitated transport, but actually the main part of its absorption is with active means. Yes, so with this, yes, glucose and amino acids are absorbed with the help of carrier proteins. This mechanism is called as facilitated transport. Yes. So yes, and one more thing, this chloride ion, it is important to remember that this is absorbed by diffusion process, means passive transport. This transport of water depends upon the osmotic gradient. Active transport occurs against the concentration gradient and hence requires energy. Various nutrients like amino acids, monosaccharides, and glucose, electrolytes like Na are absorbed into the blood by this mechanism. Yes. So here one more thing, that this electrolyte Na plus is actually by active transport. Yes, so yes, energy is needed to transport it. And then a very important thing that comes, fatty acids and glycerol, being insoluble, cannot be absorbed into blood. They are first incorporated into small droplets called micelles, which move into the intestinal mucosa. Yes, so I actually talked about it earlier. Yes, and there it comes that fats and fatty acids and glycerol are actually not directly transferred into the blood capillaries. Yes, so it is actually transformed into micelles in the intestinal mucosa, the innermost layer of the alimentary canal. They are reformed into very small protein coated fat globules, which is again a very important thing. Micelles are actually then reformed into very small protein coated fat globules called as chylomicrons, which are transported into the lymph vessels in the villi. Yes, so lacteals we talked about in this diagram, you know, see. Yes, these are the lacteals, and actually the fatty acids and glycerol are actually converted into micelles in the intestinal mucosa, and then it is reformed into protein coated fat globules, and then they are transferred into lacteals. Yes, so then actually from lacteals they move into the blood, so it will come further. Yes, so we will go through it. This lymph vessels ultimately release the absorbed substances into the bloodstream. Yes, so from lymph it goes to bloodstream. Yes, so it do not directly goes into the blood. It actually passes through lacteals and it is lymph vessel and then to the blood. Yes, so absorption of substances takes place in different part of alimentary canal like mouth, stomach, and small intestine and large intestine. However, maximum absorption occurs in small intestine. A summary of absorption, sites of absorption and substances absorbed is given in table 16.1. okay, so this is a table. Okay, we will go through it briefly. So in mouth, first of all, what are the substances that are absorbed? Certain drugs coming in contact with the mucosa of the mouth and lower side of the tongue are absorbed into the blood capillaries lining them. So we will highlight this drugs, they are absorbed in mouth. Okay, And then in stomach, absorption of water, simple sugar and alcohol, etc. takes place. It is not asked, but it can be asked because it is given in the textbook that water, simple sugars and alcohol too are absorbed from the stomach. Small intestine, principal organ for absorption of nutrients. Yes, definitely the villi are present over here. The digestion is completed here, and final products of digestion such as glucose, fructose, fatty acid, glycerol, amino acids are absorbed through mucosa into the bloodstream and lymph. Okay, so yes, we have gone through it. Yes, so these are the things which are absorbed in small intestine. Then talking about large intestine, absorption of water, some minerals and drugs take place. Yes, so yes, so this is a table which briefly discusses about the whole process. And the absorbed substances finally reach the tissues which utilize them for their activities. This process is called assimilation. Yes, so what happens after absorption is assimilation, that is using those food to do various things or to generate energy. Yes, when it is stored, the digestive waste solidified into coherent feces in the rectum initiate a neural reflex causing an urge or desire for its removal. The ejection of feces into the outside through the anal opening, which is called as defecation, is a voluntary process and is carried out by a mass peristaltic movement. Yes, so here it is a thing that you should know or you might know, that there are two sphincters in the process of defecation near the anal opening. Yes, so there are two sphincters which are internal and external. The internal is actually involuntary and the external one is voluntary. So the process here it is talking about is of external sphincter. The inner one is not in our control, it is involuntary. Yes, so yes, I hope you will remember it, so I am not writing it. Disorders of digestive system. Yes, so this is an important thing of the chapter from where definitely the questions are coming. The inflammation of intestinal tract is most common ailment due to the bacterial and viral infection. Yes, so we are well aware of this. Yes, so inflammation of intestinal tract is very common actually these days. The infections are also caused by the parasites of the intestine like tapeworm, roundworm, threadworm, hookworm, pinworm, etc. Yes, these are the names of the worms which actually cause that. Jaundice. The liver is affected, skin and eyes turn yellow due to the deposit of bile pigments. Yes, so this is about jaundice, and yes, I am not highlighting because whole thing you should read. It is actually given very briefly, although all this we will discuss about it, but all this you just need to remember what is written in the NCERT. Yes, so it is actually very less, and actually the less is actually asked, so you need to remember actually the part which is given in the NCERT. Yes, just that. The liver is affected. Yes, so skin and eyes turn yellow due to the deposit of the bile pigments. Yes, we talked about the bile pigments in the chapter. Yes, they are bilirubin and biliverdin. Yes, vomiting. Yes, it is the ejection of stomach contents through the mouth. This reflex action is controlled by the vomit center in the medulla. Okay, so this is also important thing. We will come to this when we will be studying the chapter neural control and coordination. Yes, so over there the parts of brain will be discussed, so there this medulla we will come across. Diarrhea. The abnormal frequency of bowel movement and increased liquidity of the fecal discharge is known as diarrhea. Yes, it reduces the absorption of food. Okay, so this is also important, that it reduces the absorption of food. Okay, constipation. In constipation, the feces are retained within the colon as the bowel movements occur irregularly. Yes, so in this condition, the food is not properly digested, leading to a full feeling of fullness. The Causes of indigestion are inadequate enzyme secretion, anxiety, food poisoning, overeating, and spicy food. Okay, so these are the things which are given about the diseases, and you need to remember it because this is very briefly given, and yes, you need to remember it all. If it is asked in exam, it would be a easy one for you if you remember all this. So this is an add-on to the new version of NCERT. Yes, so this part, this PEM, this one is actually added in the new part of NCERT. If you are using the older one, you might not find in yours, but yes, this is also important. It is, I think it is given in the back summary portion or somewhere in the older version of the textbook. I don't remember exactly because I have a new one. Okay, so let's just go through it. Dietary deficiencies of protein and total food calories are widespread in many underdeveloped countries of South and Southeast Asia, South America, and West and Central Africa. Protein energy malnutrition. Okay, so PEM is protein energy malnutrition. This affects large section of population during drought, famine, and political turmoil. This happened in Bangladesh during the Liberation War and in Ethiopia during the severe drought in mid-80s. PEM affects infants and children to produce marasmus and kwashiorkor. Okay, so these are the two diseases. Okay, and you need not to remember this geographical thing. Okay, so most probably 99% it will be not asked in it. Okay, so do not worry about that. Marasmus is produced by a simultaneous deficiency of proteins and calories. Okay, so this is very important thing, that what causes marasmus. Okay, so you need to remember this. It is okay, so it is found in infants less than year in age. This is also important thing. If the mother's milk is replaced too early by other foods which are poor in both protein and caloric value, this often happens if mother has second pregnancy or childbirth when the older infant is still too young. In marasmus, protein deficiencies impairs growth and replacement of tissue proteins. Extreme emaciation of body and thinning of limbs result. The skin become dry, thin and wrinkled. Growth rate of body weight decline considerably. Okay, so this is important, that the body, yes, thinning of limbs and the skin becomes dry, thin and wrinkled. Okay, so in the next we are going to talk about is kwashiorkor. There is some layer of fat on the there is some layer of fat under the skin. Yes, so it is not so thinny as it is in marasmus. Okay, so growth rate and body weight decline considerably. Even growth and development of brain and mental faculties are impaired. Kwashiorkor is produced by protein deficiency unaccompanied by calorie deficiency. Okay, so this is important. Yes, it results from the replacement of mother's milk by a high calorie, low protein diet in a child more than 1 year in age. Yes, so this is important. This age difference and the cause of it is actually very important, because these are the two things with which you can differentiate in these two. Like marasmus, kwashiorkor shows wasting of muscles, thinning of limbs, failure of growth and brain development. But unlike marasmus, some fat is still left under the skin. Moreover, the extensive edema and swelling of body parts are seen. Okay, so this is actually the difference I was talking about. Yes, so some layer of fat is present under the skin in kwashiorkor. Okay, so summary, we will actually read it also, because in many chapters of NCERT it is some things actually which are not given in lesson, they are given in summary. You might not have come to know it, but yes, in this chapter I think so it is not like that, but in coming chapters we will do find it that some things are given in summary and which is actually not well explained in the chapter. Yes, so summary is important too. I was actually trying to explain that to you. The digestive system of humans consists of an alimentary canal and associated digestive glands. The alimentary canal consists of mouth, buccal cavity, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, and small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and the anus. So see, now we are reading the summary, so you just need to summarize it. Yes, so as I'm talking about things, you just need to flash it back the memory of yours when you read the chapter. Yes, so the accessory digestive glands include the salivary glands, the liver with gallbladder, and the pancreas. Inside the mouth, the teeth masticates the food, the tongue tastes the food and manipulates it for proper mastication by mixing the saliva. Saliva contains a starch digestive enzyme, salivary amylase, that digests the starch and converts it into maltose, disecrete the food that then passes into the pharynx and enters the esophagus in the form of bolus, which is further carried down through the esophagus by peristalsis into the stomach. In stomach, mainly protein digestion takes place. Absorption of simple sugars, alcohol, and medicines also takes place in stomach. The chyme, food enters into the duodenum portion of the small intestine and is acted on by pancreatic juice, bile, and finally by the enzymes in the succus centricus, the intestinal juice. So the digestion of carbohydrates, proteins, and fat is completed. The food then enters into the jejunum and ileum portion of the small intestine. Carbohydrates are digested and converted into monosaccharides like glucose. Proteins are finally broken down into amino acids. The fats are converted into fatty acids and glycerol. The digested end products are absorbed into the body through the epithelial lining of the intestinal villi. The undigested food, feces, enters into the cecum of the large intestine through ileocecal valve, which prevents the backflow of the fecal matter. Yes, most of the water is absorbed in the large intestine. The undigested food becomes semi-solid in nature and then enters into rectum, anal canal, and is finally digested out through the anus. Yes, so this is the chapter. Yes, so this is the exercise which I would recommend you to go through once, because there might be some important questions which may be helpful to you, and yes, I do recommend to solve it. If you want me to solve for you, just write down in the comment section, so I will make a short video on this. And yes, I am also planning to make a video for previous year's question of the competitive exams, basically the EIPMTs, NET, all the years back again, and other competitive exams which are actually had, including AIMS, which was till last year, and that questions also are included, and I'm planning to make soon a video of that. So if you want of this also, this exercise also, you just have to write it in the comment section, and yes, I will make it of this also. Yes, and if you like my effort, please like it, subscribe my channel for the further videos, and yes, share it as much as you can. Thank you very much.